Welcome everyone. This is Jerry Hallowell, better known as Candace. I'm believing in magic again today. So first off, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and again, please share, like. I'm trying to really up my audience and everything, and I really would appreciate if you guys kind of help a girl, okay? I also want to thank my special guest yesterday. My special guest was my husband, William. He was amazing. If you guys haven't seen that video, please go in and check that out later on. It was fun. You actually got a chance to see who William is and what type of person he is and where he came from. And that right there is what I wanted you guys to see. And I think, that you guys will see exactly why I love him so much, okay, and everything. So, but today my conversation is kind of up in the air. We're just gonna go with what we feel. Okay, I don't have a set discussion of what I want to discuss, but it is a few things that's on my mind that I would like to share and everything. So, so first off, I want to share a little bit about my history, just a little bit more about my history, because I really didn't go into that. I just went into my family dynamics and everything, and I just want to go into my history before leaving Michigan. Basically, growing up in Detroit, it wasn't as hard as people think it is. It wasn't as hard as people think it was to grow up in Detroit. Especially the area that I grew up in. The area that I grew up in, I knew everybody on the block. I knew everybody around the corner. I knew everybody on the other corner. Around the other corner. So it was like, the neighborhood. We just all knew each other. So when I actually started being me, it wasn't a shock to anyone. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, and that was the amazing thing for me, is that, the support that I got within my neighborhood was really good. It was great. The support I got in my neighborhood was great because everybody liked me. And the ones who didn't. But anyway, as I was saying, I end up leaving my home earlier. And I look back now, and I look at my nephews, my nieces, and everything, and I look at them I remember them at 13. And I couldn't see them. You know what I'm saying? Like, by 13, when I was 13, I was out on the streets. I was doing my thing. I was, living on my own, and everything. That's what I was doing at 13, and it was crazy. It's crazy to look back and to see how did I make it? How am I 59 years old and still on this earth right now? It's beyond me. It's not beyond me, because I know who it is. I know why I'm here, because God ain't done with me yet. But to be 13 and to be out there on this, on the streets, doing everything that a grown person, a person 25, 30 wouldn't have been doing, but I was out there doing it. I was out there on the streets, and I was on drugs, you know what I'm saying? All of this different kind of stuff that was going on in my life, which was the 80s. It was right before the 80s. Oh my God. It was the 80s. So experiencing all this different stuff, it was crazy to me. That it was the late 70s. It was crazy to me that I survived. I look back and I remember some of the craziest things that I've done, and I can't believe that I'm still here. You know, I really can't. And I think that's what kind of I think that's what kind of helped form when I say yesterday is nothing in my life that I did that I wish or regret that I did because it made me become the person that I am right now. And the person that I am right now, I love looking in the mirror because I respect me. I love me. I cherish me. I know that I have the best intentions for myself. So it's crazy that I had to go through all that to become this amazing person that I am right now, that I had to go through all that. And I look back on it and it doesn't seem like it was for as long as it was for. And that's the crazy thing for me. These 7 years here these 7 years married to my husband, it don't seem like 7 years, but I'm saying, but me out there on the streets, it was crazy. Okay, when I say crazy, y'all, I mean it was crazy. Okay, I wrote a book about it. Okay, and I'm gonna try to get that published. But still, but at the end of the day, it was so crazy to think of myself back at 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. That's 6. Oh my God, I was out there every single night. And the nights that the nights that I wasn't out there, I was in jail. You know, that was my teenage years. Ain't that crazy? I'm sitting up here, you know, thinking about it now, and that was my teenage years. Was on Woodward Avenue in Wayne County Jail, the House of Correction, you know what I'm saying? And then eventually going to prison. You know, it baffles me. And prison was way more than the 6, 7 years I was out on the street. Okay, so I have been, and so, but being out there, I was around people who, I'm going to tell you, I think for me, it was people who had the same struggles that I put upon myself. Listen to me. The same struggles that I put upon myself. Not sure if they put it upon themselves or it was just in the cards for them. But we could connect. But I put myself in that struggle. I clammed out of our dining room window on 14543 Strathmore. Okay, I clammed out the dining room window, and I ran down the alley. Mind you, with nothing. I didn't leave with a suitcase. I didn't leave with a backpack. I didn't leave with anything. I left with nothing but the clothes on my back and the shoes on my feet. And I wasn't running because I was abused. I wasn't running because I was molested. I wasn't running because anything like that. I ran because I wanted to be grown, and I knew that I couldn't be grown in that house at that age. I knew that I couldn't be. So guess what? I ran. And I ran and I ran and I ran. And then, and tell y'all the truth, I didn't even have a friend who I ran to. I didn't have a friend's house who I ran to. I didn't go to somebody's house and stay over their house or something like that. I didn't have friends that I ran to because I really didn't, have any friends who would let me stay with them. Okay, shit, they was all 12 and 13 too. Shit, what? So me I slept in bushes, you know what I'm saying? Seriously. And this is, you guys are going to see why I am who I am. I slept in bushes. I slept in the back of my daddy's van because he had to go to work at like 3, 4 in the morning. So I was sleeping there till like 2 and jump up and get out the van. You know what I'm saying? And I was, sleep in bushes, cousins will let me, in the basement, you know what I'm saying, and everything. My cousins next door, they actually, opened a window and let me climb in, and I slept in the basement. You know what I'm saying? I was doing this for so long, and then I end up, I can't even tell you, this is so crazy. I can't even tell you how I ended up on Woodward Avenue. Now, Woodward Avenue back in the 80s, Woodward Avenue was the, place where all prostitutes, transgenders, drag queens, all of these people were out there, and they were out selling themselves, you know what I'm saying? And they were doing all of this kind of, illegal stuff, drugs and all of that. And, this is before I even, even knew anything about drugs or anything. And so, ended up on Woodward. I swear, I don't even know how I ended up on Woodward. I don't even know. Ended up on Woodward. And when I ended up on Woodward, honey, please, one of the girls seen me and everything, and it was so funny. It was just so funny, because I was out there and I was watching them, and they were, jumping in and out of cars, and they were doing what people on Woodward was doing, and I was intrigued. Seriously, I was intrigued. I was like, oh my God. So these are the misfits. These are the misfits that I want to be a part of. And I did. And so I remember the first time I put on a wig and got ready. It was a horrible sight. It was a horrible sight. But the youth in it, because what people failed to realize is it was nothing but pedophiles out there, for real. You know what I'm saying? But the youth in it, got me the attention. You know what I'm saying? And I remember the first time, and it was just so baffling for me that someone would pay me, to do whatever. I ain't going into details, but I'm saying, but someone would pay me for this. And it was so baffling for me. And I was like, oh my God, people pay you for this. And then I was able to get a hotel room, you know what I'm saying? Because this is what they were doing. They were going out there to do whatever, to get hotel rooms and to put food in their tummy and to buy clothes and to do all of this. And then I started doing it, okay? And I was like, oh my God, and I became an independent person at like 14, going on 15, you know, and all of this, because for the 13th, because my 13 and part of my 14 years, I was just sleeping in and out of cars and just, you know, walking around the day, hang out at the malls and all of this. But like when in my late 14s and early 15s, that's when I went on the streets, and I was seriously on the streets. And it became a lifestyle for me. So I was meeting people and everything, but yet and still, I never really could connect. I never really could connect with people. You know what I'm saying? But I met these people, you know. But you know, I can't tell you, you know, I had a best friend back then. No, you know, I had mentors and everything, and so I started, and I remember. And I was like, oh my God, you know, then men was hitting on me. And, you know, men outside of the tricks was hitting on me. And so I was like, And so I wanted a man. I'm telling you, looking back and just seeing this, it's the shadow, you got to stop. Looking back and just remembering this, it was so crazy. It was so crazy. And then, you know, it was like I was still lonely, you know, and that was the thing for me. I was actually still lonely and everything. And so I ended up getting in a relationship with somebody who, child please, I was, what, 15, 16, I was almost 16, 15, 16, and he was like 25, you know, or something like that. And I thought that was just so cool. You know what I'm saying? It was, my niece right now. Oh, okay. If she was 16, 15, 16, and she was dating a 25-year-old man, girl, I would find him and beat him to death. You know what I'm saying? But this was, you have to understand, this was the life that these people, who I'll say us, because I was us, I was part of these people. This was the lifestyle that we lived, you know, and everything. And then the drugs came in. Whew, and when the drugs came in, I became, oh my God, I became a totally different person, because I needed my drugs. And that's what I was out there. I wasn't out there working for nothing but to get my drugs, keep a roof over my head, and put some food in my stomach. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And get an outfit here, an outfit there. If they would have had Timu back then, oh, I would have been one of the sharpest crackheads out there if they would have had Timu then. but they didn't. It was so crazy. And then I started, you know, robbing people. You know what I'm saying? I remember telling my sister one time, I said, girl, I was so proud. Whatever I do, I'm proud of it, okay? But I was so proud. I said, girl, I'm a hoe. She said, no. She said, you got all this stuff on because that's your mask, because you's an armed robber. And I thought about it, and I truly was. And it was so crazy. So when I went to prison, I seen a connection again with me and these people, but yet and still it was a disconnect as well. You know, because I met people who had to do what they had to do. I was one of the people who chose to do what I had to do. What I did. You know what I'm saying? I chose to do what I did. I was meeting people who had to do this, people who had abusive parents, people who got put out because of their, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I was meeting all these different type of people. And it was so crazy because I kept still trying to find a common ground. You know what I'm saying? And that was the thing. I needed to find something in common. you know, and everything. And it was so crazy. And I had to fit in to to survive. I had to fit in. I had to fit in to survive. You know what I'm saying? But I still was able to keep that sweet candy, about myself. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what the older, guys, prisoners and stuff really, liked about me, is because I was I wasn't as hard as most of the other girls that was there. They were hard. You know what I'm saying? They were hard girls. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't afraid to show that I cared. I wasn't. I wasn't. I wasn't going to be out there. You know, setting people up to get hurt or something like that. They knew they couldn't come to me with that. They knew that when they came to me, they had to. That people came to me. They came to me with. Just expecting me to be this sweet person in prison, and that's who I was. And I thank God that they allowed me to continue to be me, and they didn't try to force me into becoming like them other girls in there. You know what I'm saying? And to be kind of truthful with you, to be totally honest with you, I kind of looked, down on them because really, sexually active with so many different people. You know what I'm saying? And me, if you said you was my man, I wouldn't go do nothing, with nobody but my man. You know what I'm saying? And when I was single, I really wasn't doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? And then, thank God, I had a family who was sending me money and was making sure my parents sent me money to make sure that I didn't have to run around and do different stuff for cosmetics or for food or anything like this. They made sure that I was financially okay in jail to be able to not have to be bothered with someone just because they had some money. You know what I'm saying? And so it was weird, and in there I growed as well. And I was like, I had to face a lot of different things, because being locked up, you spend 99% of your time by yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to see who I was. You know what I'm saying? And in my mind, I knew I wanted so much more. I wanted so much more. And that was the thing for me, is that I needed so much more. And that's when I started growing inside, from that 14, 15-year-old girl to a person that needed to be in the world. I needed to be in the world. I needed to be proud of me. And I wasn't. I was more disappointed than anything.